The story begins with an average Japanese worker called Takeru heading home from work. He sits down to watch TV, feeling bored with his monotonous routine. Takeru turns on the TV, thinking it'll be good to get a change in pace. Watching the figure on the TV, his glasses start glowing brightly, and he gets teleported to a strange world. A strange man greets Takeru with some tea, leaving him confused. The man explains that he's the solar system manager for their world. Takeru watches as the man creates a mini planet called Madius on his finger. The manager tells Takeru that planet Madius is an inhospitable place where no civilization can thrive. He pours a drop of water on the mini planet, saying this is the effect Takeru will have after he goes to Madius. Takeru feels shocked by this sudden responsibility, so the manager reveals he'll lose his soul since he's already dead. Shocked, Takeru feels like he's got no choice, and the man explains that he'll get special powers to help him in the new world. He gives Takeru infinite mana and asks if he wants more powers, so he asks for a cute harem. The manager nods before giving Takeru an expanded search ability to find and sell rare items. After writing more powers for him, the manager tells Takeru that he'll have a bottomless bag to store all his loot and the ability to speak the Madian language. Suddenly, Takeru's body starts to vanish, and the manager thinks he might have made him too up. Looking at Takeru's partner, the manager feels concerned, but tells him that he'll be fine. Takeru feels like he's going to get scammed hard, but his vision fades to black as he enters the new world. Soon, he wakes up leaning on a tree in a lush forest. When he looks up, Takeru sees a huge ringed planet in the sky. He gets up to search for more people. After some walking, Takeru finds a village, but feels worried because he has no money. Remembering the manager's search ability, he tries to search for items. Nothing happens, so Takeru looks like an idiot with his wand out. Thinking he messed up the spell cast, he tries to write the spell on the ground. The search spell finally activates and reveals the locations of several items around him. Takeru scans one of the items, learning it's a B-grade night grass. Excited by its rank, he picks up the grass before getting up to grab the other items. However, Takeru gets disappointed since they're all E rank. Then, he finds a pretty rock, but a scan reveals it's actually monster poop. Takeru is shocked that the poop is actually C ranked and stores away his items in the bag. He leaves to sell the items at the village and finds a yawning guard at the entrance. The guard feels surprised by his height and asks if he's a knight. However, Takeru explains that he's just a gatherer, and the guard introduces himself as Captain Marlowe of the village's defense. Marlowe walks to open the door, explaining that his village has a general store to buy Takeru's herbs. As Takeru walks in, he feels embarrassed by the curious stares around him. He walks into the general store, and the shopkeeper asks if he needs something. Takeru asks if he can sell the monster poop, and the shopkeeper feels excited by the item's quality. He tells Takeru that it'll sell for a gold coin, so he asks if it'll be enough money to stay at an inn. The shopkeeper explains that a gold coin can pay for 2 nights at an inn, which costs 500 raves per night. Takeru is shocked that the poop is worth so much and happily accepts the shopkeeper's price. The shopkeeper rubs the shiny poop on his face and asks if Takeru has more materials. Takeru gives him all the herbs, impressing the shopkeeper with his skills. The shopkeeper asks why he's selling rare items in his small store, so Takeru says that he's a traveling merchant, thinking he's got the skills. The shopkeeper asks Takeru for a serious job. He requests some rare mithril ore from an eastern mountain, and Takeru asks for a local map. The shopkeeper nods before paying Takeru 360,000 raves for all his items. Takeru's eyes pop out at all the money, but the shopkeeper warns that he'll encounter monsters in the mountain. With his money, Takeru books an inn to get some rest. A inn employee enters the room with a tub of hot water. She tells Takeru he can clean his body with the water, and he asks where he can get a full bath. She reveals that only nobility can afford full baths in their world, but Takeru can also ask a water magician for one. Excited to use his own magic, Takeru takes the bowl and gives the girl some good money to enjoy. After sending her off, Takeru tries chanting words for a water bath. The word clean creates a gush of water that deep cleans Takeru's body. Outside his room, the girl feels surprised by Takeru's euphoric noises. He feels happy that his body is clean, but feels frustrated that he can't soak in a full, cozy bath. The next day, Takeru gathers some more herbs before finding a spade symbol. Checking it out, he finds a rotten skeleton wearing some fighting gear. Takeru falls back in shock, realizing that it's the body of a fallen adventurer. He picks up an amulet containing a letter from the adventurer's sister. Takeru learns that the adventurer was searching for money to cure his father's illness, but his sister wanted him to return home. Feeling sad for the fallen soul, he makes a grave for him and offers some prayers. Afterward, he creates a magic barrier around himself and uses some fuel to start a fire. Takeru places a pot on the fire and fills it with some water and veggies to make a stew. He then adds the meat to the stew and watches the heat cook up the ingredients. Once the stew is ready, Takeru takes a bite. bite, finding it delicious. He praises the Ice-Sky world for giving him so many flavorful spices. After eating, Takaru heads into the White Forest of Ancient Dragons. Knowing there are dangerous monsters nearby, he creates some light with a spell. The light reveals some herbs around him, and Takaru feels disappointed that there's no ore. Feeling grateful he hasn't found any monsters, he starts picking the herbs. Takaru thinks that his awful body odor might be repelling the monsters, and starts happily dashing through the forest. He soon finds light at the end of the tunnel and follows it to get out. However, Takaru runs straight into a chasm and starts falling down the pit. He hastily chants the entire dictionary and finally finds the spell to fly. The spell's glow surrounds his body and gracefully helps Takaru settle on the ground. He sits down in relief, but notices symbols for ores all around him. Takaru takes out his hammer and gets to mining all the ore. He breaks off a piece and learns it's silver ore, but fails to find any mithril. He uses a search spell again and finds some hidden ore, but feels the ground shaking around him. He decides to get the ore and quickly leave, using a fireball spell to uncover the hidden rock. Once the spell shatters the rock, Takaru finds some tiny chunks of mithril deep inside. He feels disappointed with the small amount and ignores the shaking ground to search for more ore. He explores the rest of the cave and finds a pristine underwater lake in its depths. He rushes to scan the water and finds out that it's SS-ranked magic elemental water. Takaru feels excited by the valuable find, but learns that it's actually the water from an ancient dragon's nest. A deep voice rings out, asking for the intruder's identity, but Takaru ignores it and wonders how to collect the water. He tries drinking the water, but suddenly, the water erupts as the dragon comes out. It angrily orders Takaru to stop ignoring it, and he watches the creature in silence. The dragon notices how calm he is in its presence, and Takaru apologizes for intruding on its lair. As the dragon examines Takaru's body, he feels weird about submitting to it. The dragon feels respect for Takaru's courage and asks for his identity. Takaru introduces himself as a human, surprising the dragon with the vast amounts of mana in his body. The dragon reveals that Takaru's mana forced him to wake up, but he feels confused. The dragon tells Takaru that his mana is as powerful as its own, and Takaru finally realizes that he's talking to an ancient beast. The dragon nods and introduces himself as Valdius. Takaru asks if he can call him Val, and Valdius agrees. He asks Takaru for a favor, saying that he could awaken his children with his incredible power. Takaru feels surprised, so Val explains that the magic element has stagnated around his lair. He offers to pay Takaru for his services and summons a big cluster of pure mithril ore as a reward. Takaru asks Val where the eggs are, and the dragon summons a big black egg from the water. He sends it to Takaru, who holds the egg to his ear and hears the faint heartbeat of the baby dragon inside. Takaru wonders how to awaken the baby inside, and Val tells him to pour his mana inside the egg. Val explains that it's just like creating the light spell, so Takaru decides to heat up the egg. After heating up, the egg releases a powerful aura and starts sucking all of Takaru's mana inside it. Val starts laughing like a villain, and Takaru realizes he got duped by the shady old beast. Losing his strength, Takaru's vision fades, and he feels himself sinking into water. Takaru hears a strange voice in the dream, scolding him for being so careless. A man appears in front of Takaru and points out that he should have run away from the dragon. The man tells Takaru that he's been toying with planet Mattius for millennia, but Takaru has already shaken the whole world on his second day there. The man thinks that Takaru's carelessness will weaken the space manager's protection, before remembering that he wanted a cute partner. As Takaru's eyes start closing again, the man tells him he deserves some trouble. Before Takaru can ask for an explanation, the vision fades and he wakes up in the real world. Takaru hears a cute voice squealing in the dark cave, and Val asks if he's fine. Takaru thinks Val is pranking him with a fake voice and uses a light spell to expose him. However, he finds a dragon hatchling squeaking at him, which jumps straight on his face. After Takaru sets the baby dragon down, Val asks him to name it. Takaru feels surprised that Val is letting him name his child. The dragon explains that his child already has a dragon name, but Takaru should give him his common name. Takaru gets up and starts racking his brain, and decides to call it B for the color black. Loving his new name, B starts licking Takaru's face to show his appreciation. Val calls his child by his full name, Black Nobi Valdius, and praises Takaru for the suitable nickname. Then, he permits B to travel the world with Takaru. Takaru feels the baby join his party and reminds Val that he should spend some time with his newborn baby. He thinks Val shouldn't trust a stranger with his baby, but Val trusts Takaru since he's stronger than him. He then casts a beam on Takaru's bag before sinking back into the water. As B continues slobbering on Takaru's face, Val says goodbye before vanishing into the depths. Takaru feels surprised by the surreal experience and seriously asks B if he's ready for a gathering journey. B happily agrees, so he washes its stinky body to protect his his nose during their upcoming adventures. After some time, Takeru exits the cave with Bee. Watching Bee happily buzz around in the forest, Takeru thinks that traveling at night isn't a good idea. Feeling hungry, he decides to camp out at the spot for the night. Getting ready to eat, he takes out some magic elemental water. Looking at the water in his bag, Takeru remembers that Vol connected his to the magic lake so that he could provide food for Bee. Bee happily drinks some water and asks for more, so Takeru gives her another cup. However, it offers this cup to Takeru, so he takes it and tries some magic water himself. After drinking the refreshing water, Takeru sets down some magic stones and casts a barrier around them. Using the precious stones so easily, he recalls how valuable they are in this world. However, since he can just create magic stones with his own mana, Takeru feels free to abuse them for minor conveniences. With another magic stone ready, Takeru heats it up to start cooking. Even Bee gets surprised as he watches Takeru turn the expensive stones into a kitchen stove. Knowing it's the same dish as before, Takeru makes some steak and stew, but feels excited to eat it since it tastes so good. He notices Bee drooling at the meat, but feels worried if the foreign food would harm it. Takeru offers a small portion for Bee to try, and it burns its mouth from the hot food. To help her eat, Takeru blows on the food and cools it down. Finally, Bee enjoys a good stew and fills its belly with the food. Watching the baby dragon laze around, Takeru wonders why it's not sad about leaving its father. In response, Bee just hugs Takeru, so he realizes that it feels happy living with him. Takeru is pleased with its response and checks out Bee's stats. Even at Bee's young age, he finds it at a powerful B rank with a bunch of powerful elemental abilities. Takeru gets serious about Bee, but thinks that it's still a kid who needs to be raised properly. Looking at the lazy baby, he seriously warns it not to try anything dangerous. Even if it's so strong, Takeru reminds Bee that he'll get scolded by Vol if something goes wrong, but it starts sleeping before he can even finish. Watching it sleep, Takeru wonders if the space manager gave him a reptile partner on purpose. The next day, Takeru climbs up a mountain to reach the forest again. Feeling surprised that the forest looks so peaceful during the day, Takeru thinks that he shouldn't be so worried about the Ice Sky World rules. While Bee starts playing, Takeru uses his search skill to find more herbs to sell. As he finds some new herbs, Bee comes back terrified. Takeru searches for monsters and detects several of them in the area. Thinking back to his previous experience when monsters were scared off by his smell, Takeru thinks that his visit to the cave washed the smell off of him. Wanting to get some monster loot, he gets ready to fight the monsters. Suddenly, a ferocious rock falcon roars behind Takeru, but he finds it adorable compared to the terrifying Vol. Noticing the bird's meat, Takeru decides to turn it into KFC. As the bird charges at Takeru, he creates a shield and prepares some ice needles to attack. With a single attack, Takeru turns the bird into a chicken carcass. Then he turns to look at some serpent wolves around him. As a wolf rushes towards Takeru, he uses a speed enhancement ability and jumps to avoid its attack. Then, he hardens his body with another skill and kicks down at the wolf's skull. After finishing it off, Takeru takes out 2 more wolves, but a sneaky one creeps behind him. However, he easily knocks it away before finishing off the rest of the wolves. Takeru begins collecting all the monster meat and materials, but notices even more monsters nearby. Not wanting to spend his whole day fighting, Takeru wonders how to escape, so Bee grabs him and tries hard to flap its wings. Takeru doesn't think Bee is strong enough to lift him, but it actually lifts him to his surprise. To help Bee fly easily, Takeru reduces his weight with a spell, and it shoots through the sky with it. As a lady opens her eyes, Bee takes Takeru to space, who tells her it's going too high. Surprised, the baby dragon drops Takeru to the ground. He wakes up to Bee licking his face and realizes that it actually took him out of the forest. Takeru is shocked by Bee's fast speed and thanks it for its help. However, he reminds the dragon to hold back on him next time since he can't handle all its power. Pleased by his praise, Bee tries to hug Takeru, but headbutts his stomach instead. Afterward, they start heading back to Tormi village. While walking back, Bee notices a strange branch in Takeru's hand, so he explains that it's called the Yggdrasil branch. Takeru reveals that he had this SS rank legendary item from his first day in this world, but its powers are currently inactive. Bee nods before blowing some smoke on the branch. Takeru is shocked to see that Bee's magic breath actually woke up the sleeping item. He wonders how to use the new staff, thinking it'd make him look like a magician instead of a gatherer. Suddenly, they hear a growl in the forest, and Takeru tells Bee to stay on alert. As Takeru wonders if it's another monster, Bee suddenly flies away towards the noise. Takeru chases after it, hoping the baby stays safe. He finds Bee circling around a tree and sees a young elf collapsed under it. Takeru wonders if she got attacked by the growling monster, but the elf's hungry stomach answers his question, saying she hasn't eaten in days. The elf asks for some water. He reaches into his bag and gets some fresh water for her, which she quickly gulps down. The elf thanks Takeru Takaru for his help, but still feels hungry for food. Remembering that he has some lunch left, Takaru gives her a sandwich, and the elf greedily devours it. As the girl praises the heavenly meal, Takaru is shocked to see an elf act so unrefined. He reminds the girl that even stale bread would taste delicious to a starving person, and she says that she has regained her will to live. Wondering how she ran out of food so quickly, Takaru reminds her that the village isn't far from the forest. After she explains that she left in a hurry, Takaru scolds her for being so careless. Feeling embarrassed, the girl tries to explain, but Takaru notices her bad smell. He feels disappointed that she smells like poop instead of flowers, and the elf girl gets offended by his rude remark. After thanking him for his help, she gets up to leave and sprints through the forest. Once the elf girl leaves, Takaru gathers some more materials on his way home. Outside the forest, B notices something, and Takaru spots a carriage on the road. As the carriage gets closer, Takaru notices that a special E-rank unicorn horse is pulling it. The carriage driver, called Poran, asks him what he's doing in the forest alone, so Takaru informs him that he's heading to Tormi village. Poran is surprised that he's walking all the way there, while his wife and kids watch with curiosity. Noticing the staff in his hands, he asks Takaru if he's a magician. He quickly explains that he's just a gatherer, and Poran feels impressed by his rare job. Explaining that he's also headed to Tormi, Poran offers a ride to Takaru. He refuses, saying that he's too big to fit in the carriage, and Poran's kids laugh at Takaru's strange appearance. However, Palom insists that Takaru ride with him, so he gets on the back of the carriage. As Takaru sits in the carriage, he wonders why all the kids in this world like him so much. Poran teases him for his size, and Takaru apologizes again for taking up so much space. Poran says he doesn't mind helping out a fellow Tormi resident in need, and his family agrees, as Takaru feels surprised by such young kids going on a dangerous trip. Poran's daughter, called Yunan, offers him a gift. Accepting the kind gift, he asks why the family is trusting him so easily. Polan's son, called Kine, tells him that if Takaru were a bad guy, their magical item would have alerted them. Takaru notices the little bell with a magic stone and thinks that he can create an item like that as well. Then he remembers to introduce himself, and Poran's wife, Eliza, introduces herself too. Suddenly, B starts struggling in Takaru's bags, and the kids notice it. They ask about the strange sound, but Takaru tries to hide it since it's a rare monster. Eliza tells him that it's not very rare for adventurers to have monster pets, so he allows them to see it. Once B comes out, the kids start fawning over it, while Poran and his wife are surprised that Takaru got a rare dragon. To hide B's true identity as an ancient dragon, Takaru tells them it's just a black dragon. They wonder if he's a dragon knight, so Takaru explains that he just hatched a dragon egg he found. While B uses Takaru's like Play-Doh, Poran is shocked that he can hatch a dragon egg on his own. Takaru asks Eliza how rare dragons are, and she explains that it's already uncommon to see a dragon knight, but real dragons are even harder to find. Thinking about dragon knights from video games, Takaru wonders if he can find one in this world. Later at night, after they stop for a break, Takaru uses his magic stones to set up a barrier. Poran feels relieved that they won't be disturbed by any monsters, and Takaru tells him that B will be on the watch for anything suspicious. As baby B flies around, the family feels safe with its power on their side. As Eliza gets ready to prepare dinner, Takaru asks if he can handle the cooking for the night. As he takes out his cooking set from his bag, the kids think that Takaru is a real magician. He explains that it's just a bottomless storage bag before beginning to cook. Once the food is done, the family feels excited to dig in. After Takaru invites them to begin, the kids start eating first and immediately fall in love with the food. Poran and Eliza also eat some food, and Eliza praises Takaru's cooking. However, Poran remains silent with his shoulders shaking, so Eliza asks him if he's okay. Suddenly, he looks up with tears and snot in his face, crying that he finally got to eat real food after all the bland dried meats during his journey. At Poran's exaggerated praise, Takaru starts laughing, but Poran insists that he used some kind of magic to enhance the food's taste. Even the kids start laughing at their dad's funny antics before finishing dinner. Once they're done, Poran takes out a guitar, and Eliza starts singing with him. With music in the background, Takaru starts playing with Poran's happy kids, sharing simply joy with the family. He remembers his lonely life on Earth. Enjoying his time with Poran's family, Takaru thinks that spending time with other people is an amazing experience. Feeling glad that the Isekai world has given him a new life with other people, he puts B to sleep after they finish playing. With the baby dragon snoring away, Takaru settles into his bed, looking out at the beautiful starry sky. The next morning, B and the kids are still asleep, while Takaru cleans his scissors. Curious, Eliza asks him why he's up so early, so he explains that he's taking care of his gathering tools. She nods, praising his dedication to his job, and walks away. While holding the scissors, Takaru thinks that he originally originally became a gatherer because it was necessary for earning money, but now he actually enjoys the job quite a bit. Nearby, Poran informs him that they'll leave after breakfast, so Takaru requests him to drive the carriage this time. Poran accepts, so Takaru gets on and takes the reins. He enjoys riding the beautiful unicorn, while Poran notices that they're getting close to their destination. With Bee on his lap and countless treasures in his bag, Takaru feels excited to return home. After getting off the carriage, Takaru thanks Poran for giving him a ride. Poran waves it off before leaving with his wife and kids. Guarding the town's entrance, Marlo thinks that the spring season must be close since Poran is returning to town. Curious about Poran's job, Takaru learns that the merchant goes away to sell warm clothes during winter and returns home once the season is better for hunting. Remembering Poran's joyful smile while eating ordinary meat, Takaru realizes how lucky he is to gather any material with just his ability. As Marlo reminds him of Jerome's task, Takaru remembers to visit the shopkeeper. Once inside, he hands over the materials he got from the trip and secretly mixes in some magic mithril ore. Jerome takes a close look at the ores before asking Takaru how he got these legendary materials. Seeing his confusion, Jerome explains that with just a few magic mithril ores, Takaru could have more magic power than all the magic stones available in their kingdom. Finally realizing that he exposed an insane secret, Takaru acts like he just randomly found the ore lying on the ground. However, Jerome notices that even if it's a lucky encounter, it takes skill and courage to snatch such a magic item from the face of danger. Thinking of Takaru's wasted potential, Jerome tells him to visit Belkane, which is a large city with lots of guilds and information available. He thinks that if Takaru makes Tormi village famous in the city, he'll get more customers, but Takaru has no plans of becoming famous anytime soon. However, he does feel excited to visit a bigger city and explore the new world. After returning from Jerome's shop, Takaru goes back to the inn for the night. Flipping through a book, he searches for information on the guild that Jerome mentioned. Takaru learns that Belkane has an adventurers guild, where travelers from all kinds of backgrounds meet together to exchange their goods, services, and information. He notes that while they're called adventurers, not all members of the guild are fighters. After learning that adventurers can also act in supporting roles, Takaru feels a wish to see more of the Ice-Sky world. Wanting to meet more people, he decides to visit Belkane to explore his potential and to make more money. Before heading out, he prepares for the journey while staying in Tormi. As he spends his days in Tormi, Takaru attends a town festival where everyone shares food and drinks. He watches as Bee charms a group of kids who head over to greet the dragon's kind master. While enjoying the town life, Takaru spends his time gathering during the day and preparing some processed seasonings. The woman who processes his materials tells Takaru that all the villagers will miss him once he's gone. He tells her that while he's also sad to leave the kind people, he still wants to explore the bigger world. Seeing Takaru's determination, she gives up trying to convince him to stay. Then, she hands him a big bag full of lunch, thinking that he'd have nothing to eat on his long trip to Belkane. As Takaru thanks the kind lady, she tells him he can return anytime if he misses the townsfolk. However, he gets shocked as she keeps stacking more bags in his arms, giving him enough food to end world hunger. Afterward, Takaru sits in his room, holding the magic mithril that Jerome refused to buy. While he wonders what to do with the magic item, Bee gives up thinking about the complex topic and lies down. Thinking about all the villagers' kindness, Takaru decides to build them a useful gift to repay them. After finally getting an idea, he sits down at his table to experiment. With the magic mithril and lantern next to each other, Takaru focuses his mind, which creates a spark between the items. Then, he fuses them together and creates a magic lantern. The next day, as Takaru prepares to leave the village, all the villagers gather at the gate to say goodbye. After greeting them, Takaru gives the magic lantern to Marlo. He explains that the lantern has a magic spell that will create a barrier over Tormi, protecting it from any kind of threat. Marlo feels humbled by the huge gift, but Takaru thinks that it's only fair he repays the village for their kind treatment. He tells him to keep the village safe until his return, and Marlo tells him he's free to visit anytime. However, Jerome interrupts their wholesome moment and takes the lantern in his own hands. Jerome asks Takaru if he somehow created the magic item with the magic mithril, but he runs off before the shopkeeper can grill him for more information. While the villagers wave goodbye, Jerome wishes him good luck on his journey. Some days later, Takaru walks in a clear meadow with Bee. Both of them feel relaxed in the peaceful area, but they stop after encountering a giant land crab. After scanning the mysterious crab, Takaru learns that it's an omnivore dwelling on land. It turns out that people think the crab is too ugly to eat, but Takaru's scan reveals that the crab's inner shell is quite edible and delicious. This gives him the excuse to turn the predator crab into cheap seafood, so he gets ready for a fight. Takaru casts a hardening spell to boost his defense, but Bee flies up and unleashes a sound attack on the crab. The attack instantly knocks the crab out, out, but two more appear and surround them. Cornered, Takaru notes that the crabs should be easy to fight since they can only move sideways. However, they prove him wrong by suddenly rushing forward. As the crabs raise their pincers to strike, B grabs Takaru and flies up with him, letting them smash into each other. While the crabs fall to the ground, he thanks B and goes back. Then, the first crab gets back up to attack, so Takaru uses his staff like a baseball bat and knocks it out for a home run. Once all the crabs are dead, Takaru hardens his hand to use it as a knife. He chops off all the crab legs and exposes the meat before putting it all in a giant pot. While the pot bubbles with the crab meat, he puts in some salt for a simple seasoning. Once the meat is cooked, Takaru and B grab their portions and peel away the hard shell. Both of them fall in love with the tender crab meat, and Takaru tells B they'll keep exploring for more delicious delicacies in the future. After a few weeks, Takaru finally reaches the big city of Belkame. Watching the huge border wall, Takaru feels impressed by the city's advanced architecture. Before entering, he learns that Belkame is a medium-sized city in the Belkame Kingdom, where agriculture and forestry are the primary local industries. He is also surprised to learn that Belkame has the continent's biggest adventurers guild, where people gather from all over the world, giving it the name of the City of Commerce. Then, he decides to head inside, but notices a big queue of people lined up for inspection. Once it's Takaru's turn, he uses some magic to hide his storage bag and tells B to hide inside while the guards inspect him. After entering the inspection room, Takaru hands over his bag, and the guards are surprised that he's a gatherer. They ask him if he's there to sell his items, but Takaru explains that he just wants to join the Adventurers Guild. At his response, the lead guard nods in understanding before welcoming Takaru to his city. However, before he allows Takaru to enter, the guard tells him he'll use a spell called Avils to check if he's trustworthy. He uses a magic mirror to look through Takaru's stats and approves after seeing nothing suspicious. The guard's assistant also clears Takaru's belongings, and Takaru wonders how he appears in other people's scans. He uses his own scan to check the magic mirror, but finds information on the guard himself. Takaru tries again, and this time, he learns that the guard can only see his name, age, and some other basic details that don't expose any secrets. While he is feeling relieved, the guard asks him why he has a dragon blessing. Takaru decides to tell him the truth and shows him his baby dragon. The guard nods, but asks him to mark B as his partner so people can identify it in the city. After rummaging through his bag, Takaru takes out a bracelet he got from Poron's kids and puts it on B's tail as a marker. Happy to receive a gift, B flies around them, while the guard explains that he'll have to inform the city's mayor about it. His assistant returns Takaru's bag, and the guard finally welcomes him into the city. Walking in through the dark border walls, Takaru and B get blinded when the sunlight finally trickles in. Outside, he finds himself in a bustling city, and B points him in the guild's direction. Takaru heads into the guild and finds a bunch of adventurers gathered in the large interior. A bunny girl receptionist, called Ariana, greets him at the door and prepares to welcome him to her guild. Takaru takes the registration form from her and wonders if he can write in the world's foreign language. He writes his name in Japanese, but a magic skill automatically corrects it to the world's native language. Once Takaru completes the form, Ariana takes a look at it and asks if he has fought any battles as a gatherer. He calmly tells her that he fought a bunch of chimeras, hellhounds, and giant land crabs, but Ariana asks him for some proof of fighting those monsters. He hesitates, since the monster bodies are too big, but she tells him it's fine even if the parts are big. With Ariana's approval, he reaches into his bottomless bag and pulls out an entire land crab, which breaks the table under its weight. As the terrified receptionist backs up, a beastman notices the commotion and scans Takaru with an Avils spell. Once he's finished, he asks Takaru where he got the bottomless bag from. Takaru tells him that he got it as a gift, and the beastman nods, satisfied with his answer. He tells Ariana that Takaru is safe, explaining that the Avils spell allows him to see if a person has any evil intentions. After finishing his checks, the beastman tells Takaru he can sell his meat now, but Ariana reveals that they were in the middle of his registration. The man wonders why he's lugging around the giant crab, so Takaru explains that he's going to have it for dinner. His nonchalant response shocks everyone in the guild, and the beastman ignores Takaru's weird tastes. Then, he asks if Takaru is alone, so he points to be the dragon. Noticing the baby dragon, the beastman laughs, surprised to see such a unique partner paired with a rare gatherer. Watching the scene, everyone in the guild starts talking about Takaru, excited to see his unique potential. As all the adventurers try to get close to him, Ariana drags him away to a private room so they can finish his registration in peace. Once the registration is complete, Ariana hands Takaru an adventurer's band. After she explains that he'll start from the lowest F rank, Takaru accepts the band. Meanwhile, B feels excited that both of them are wearing matching accessories. Prepared for a new adventure, the Master Dragon Belkam duo clinks their bands together, looking forward to the exciting future. After a few days in Belkam, Takaru finds the family of the dead adventurer he found in the woods. As the family mourns their beloved, Takaru tells them that the man didn't die in pain and wrote a letter containing his final words for them. Beluria's father thanks Takaru for returning his son's belongings to him, but starts coughing in pain. Noticing his weird cough, Takaru remembers that Beluria was searching for medicine for his father. Although Takaru originally just wanted to return Beluria's belongings to his family, he decides to heal the poor father himself. Afterward, he heads to the Adventurers Guild, where he hands over a bunch of rare herbs from a quest. The guild clerk feels pleased with his results, while Ariana comes sheepishly around the corner. She asks Takaru if he's willing to take on the pile of gathering requests assigned directly to him, since he's become quite popular in the city lately. However, Takaru naturally replies that he can only handle a few. After selecting a few quests, he heads to a bath to relax for a bit. The first time Takaru visited this public bath, it was filthier than a pigsty. Luckily, his clean magic helped him turn it into pure spring water, and now Takaru can enjoy a relaxing bath to his heart's content. Suddenly, a lizardman called Clay interrupts Takaru's me time. Clay gets into the bath with him, saying that his old injury is acting up. Recalling that he treated a sick man in the slums, Clay asks Takaru about his healing ability. He tries to act humble, saying that he was just copying some healers he had seen. Knowing that he didn't take any payment from the family, Clay praises his generosity, and Takaru thinks that real doctors might get angry at him for ruining their business. Clay laughs at his innocent words, leaving Takaru confused. Then, he asks Takaru why he's staying at a low adventurer's rank, and Takaru explains that he's trying to be low profile. Noting how pure he is, Clay points out that he'll actually draw even more attention by staying low-key despite being so powerful. He then gets up and leaves, telling him to learn about the unspoken rules of the city. Sometime after the bath, Takaru finishes another quest in the guild. The guild clerk asks him about raising his rank, but he refuses again. Knowing that the guild just wants him to solve difficult quests, Takaru feels guilty, but he doesn't want to ruin his peace to do troublesome quests. Suddenly, an adventurer warns the guild about a goblin attack, pulling Takaru back to reality. The guild master promptly issues an order for all adventurers rank D rank and higher to get ready for battle. He also instructs the A rank adventurer, Clay, to handle the goblins. Takaru quietly tries to slip away from the scene since he's F rank, but the guild master tells him he'll have to join their party to go out. Once the guild party is ready, the guild master explains that they're headed to the Stavlov Plains. Watching all the adventurers riled up for a fight, Takaru thinks he's too soft for the passionate crowd. Thinking he's just a puny F rank, a duo of beastmen laugh at him and warn Takaru not to get in their way. Just then, the guild master approaches him, interested in his unique reputation. The guild master mentions that his strict appraiser, called Grit, has been praising Takaru all the time, so he must be someone special. Seeing Takaru so calm while speaking to him, the guild master praises him for his courage. As the beastman gets surprised by the master's high opinion of Takaru, he inwardly wishes to stop getting so much attention. Before leaving, the master tells him to protect the people he cares for in the fight. He leaves his assistant, called Miyuzeli, behind, who apologizes to Takaru for her master dragging him along. Despite their low rank, she feels excited to fight and contribute to the guild's party. However, once they go out and reach the guild's camp, Miyuzeli gets terrified of all the monsters around them and clings to Takaru in fear. Seeing her so terrified, he holds her shoulders, but Miyuzeli claims that she'll be fine. He tells her to face reality and admit she's scared. He asks Miyuzeli about her healing abilities. Takaru tells the girl that she should stay back and focus on healing the wounded instead of fighting enemies head-on. He explains that it's completely normal for people to be afraid of getting hurt, because nobody likes to fight unless they need to protect themselves. With his encouragement, Miyuzeli stops feeling scared and runs off to help the other healers in the camp. Meanwhile, Clay makes his way over to Takaru, laughing at his inspiring performance. Takaru wonders why Clay isn't fighting on the front lines, so the lizardman explains that his old wounds are still hurting. His words remind Takaru of the huge gashes in his back, and Clay wonders if he thinks he's a coward for running away and getting hurt by the enemy. However, Takaru points out that a person can get hurt in the back if they're protecting someone as well, surprising Clay. Suddenly, they notice smoke coming from the battlefield, and Clay thinks that the leader's formation got breached. He grabs his spear to protect those on the front line, but Takaru reminds him of his wound. However, Clay is determined to protect everyone no matter what happens to him, and leaves to fight. After he leaves, Takaru notices Miyuzeli healing an injured soldier behind him. He is surprised that she got over her fear so quickly, impressed by her confidence. Remembering the guild master's words, he decides that he should get into some trouble as well and protect his precious friends. He reaches into his bag and pulls out the Yggdrasil staff and casts a barrier spell around the healer's camp. As the mouse girls gasp in shock. He tells them that he's heading out to help Clay. Meanwhile, on the frontline bridge, the guild adventurers struggle to hold back the enemy. Suddenly, Takaru arrives at the scene and takes out a goblin with a single attack. He feels guilty about hitting the creatures, but knows that he needs to fight to protect his friend. Noticing his discomfort, B decides to help out and starts casting a big spell. The adventurers get down, letting the baby dragon torch all of the goblins with a lightning attack. Once the goblins are down, everyone thank Takaru for the help. Takaru asks them how the goblins overwhelmed the guild party, so they explain that a high-ranked goblin sergeant showed up and demolished their troops. Thankfully, the beastmen were able to escape the battlefield thanks to Clay's help, but he was left alone to face the goblins on the front lines. As it starts to rain, Clay continues smacking the goblins around, but suddenly, his injury acts up, forcing him to the ground. A couple of leftover goblins take this opportunity to attack Clay, so he thinks it's finally over for him. However, the goblins get fried by B as they finally find Clay. The lizardman feels concerned that a weak gatherer like Takaru is on the battlefield, but he reminds Clay that he can't keep fighting with his back injury. Takaru tells Clay that they should retreat, but he doesn't want to let the others face the goblin army's wrath. Takaru tells him that they'll be fine with his protection, but Clay points out that the goblin sergeant will catch up to them even if they try to run away. As the goblin sergeant jumps to attack, both adventurers avoid him. Clay tells Takaru that he'll hold back the goblins for his escape, but Takaru stays and asks him if the wound on his back is important. This confuses Clay, who tells him that the wound has just been torturing him all this time. After confirming that the wound doesn't hold any good memories for Clay, Takaru decides to heal him. He reaches into his bag and pulls out some of the magic dragon water to throw on Clay's body. The poor lizardman gets confused, but Takaru takes out his staff to chant a healing spell on him. Once he decides the spell, he casts it on Clay's body, but it causes Clay to keel over in pain. As the scratches on Clay's back quickly fade, sharp spikes begin to grow, and his body transforms right before Takaru's eyes. After turning into a big black dragon, Clay asks Takaru how he was able to change his race, but he claims that he was just trying to heal his body. Feeling overwhelming power flow through his body, Clay confidently charges into the goblin horde and takes all of them out with ease. Even Takaru is shocked as Clay starts laughing like a maniac, drunk on his new power. After the fight is over, the guild master approaches Takaru and asks if he drew out Clay's full power, so he nods. The guild master asks him if he's also the same person who unleashed heavy lightning spells to torch the goblins, but Takaru remembers that it was all B's doing. While the guild master feels wary of Takaru's mysterious powers, he decides not to probe into his background and offers him a reward for all his help during the attack. Later that evening, Clay is back to normal and demands an explanation from Takaru for what he did to him earlier on the battlefield. Takaru, however, pretends he doesn't know anything. The lizardman screams at him for transforming his body without his consent, so Takaru explains that the dragon water must have caused the transformation. Clay is confused by the magic water, so Takaru reveals that he got the high-density mana water from Vol, the ancient dragon's cave, who happens to be B's father. At the mention of an ancient dragon, Clay is left stunned as he looks at B, the baby ancient pup. He asks Takaru why he wasted such precious water on him, so he says that he was just trying to accelerate his recovery during the emergency. Clay is impressed by his high-level healing skills, but Takaru thinks that he was just imitating what he knew about the body. This confuses Clay again, so Takaru explains that the back has a lot of nerves, so he visualized Clay's nervous system and helped the energy flow properly to his body. This strange information leaves the lizardman shocked, and he asks Takaru about his true identity. Being confronted directly leaves Takaru in an awkward spot, and he wonders if it's okay to explain his true origins to Clay. While Takaru thinks that it'll cause him a lot of trouble to expose his true identity, Clay starts leaving the room since he doesn't want to bother him for private information. However, he stops Clay and decides to trust him with his real background. As the lizardman stops, Takaru finally reveals that he's from another world. Clay stands there for a moment before being completely flabbergasted. Takaru takes some time to explain how he was ice-guyed into this world, and Clay can hardly believe that someone could actually reincarnate into another world. However, Clay decides to believe him after Takaru literally transforms him into a dragonute using his mysterious powers. This information surprises Takaru, so Clay reveals that he is from a race of lizardmen who were descended from the noble dragonute race. With Takaru's dragon water and healing magic, the dragonute bloodline awakened and transformed his body into a much more powerful form. While Clay feels happy that he revived his ancestors' legacy, he feels a lot of pressure while handling the uncontrollable new strength flowing through him. Takaru thinks that he'll just get used to his power someday, but his non-serious attitude pisses Clay off. However, Takaru still thinks that getting worried won't help, and Clay tells him that he needs to start taking stuff seriously furiously. Upset by his carelessness, he decides to punish Takeru by forcing him to do whatever he wants for the rest of the day. The next morning, he heads out in the city, noticing that everyone has gone back to their normal routine. He smiles, praising the city for its hustle, before making his way to a weapons shop. As B feels curious about what he wants to buy, the shop owner politely greets him, welcoming him to her store. He asks her if she sells gatherer scissors, but the girl shakes her head. Interested in Takeru's skills, she introduces herself as Ribble and offers to make custom scissors for his gathering tasks. She reveals that her boss, Grauthas, is a great blacksmith, but he'll take a good payment for his work. Takeru asks to see him, so she takes him inside her store. There, Takeru sees a bunch of blacksmiths hammering away on the swords, and Ribble says that the blacksmiths have inspired her to work hard as well. Then, she takes him to her boss's room, and the dwarf wonders who Takeru is. When Ribble explains that he's the famous gatherer everyone in town has been talking about lately, Grauthas becomes interested. Ribble also thinks that they can use Takeru's abilities to gather some rare Ildra ore for a special sword to use in a sword tournament. The ore's name confuses Takeru, while Grauthas refuses to send him mining in the dangerous Ruhai mine. However, Ribble keeps arguing with him and tries to force the poor dwarf into agreeing with her. Grauthas angrily refuses, reminding Ribble that the mines are full of dangerous demons at this time. At the mention of demons, Takeru gets curious, and Ribble finally loses her energy. Grauthas warns her that if she takes other people's lives so lightly, she'll never succeed as a master blacksmith. He feels happy that his apprentice is trying so hard to save his shop, but there's no way he'll make a young person like Takeru risk his life. At Grauthas's kind words, Ribble gives up on her idea, but Takeru offers to look for the ore if they agree to forge a pair of scissors for him as a reward. Seeing the blacksmith's surprise, he takes a crab's claw out of his bag. Grauthas is astonished that he was able to defeat a B-rank monster on his own. Takeru then explains that monsters are no match for him, so he can easily explore the mines. Later, Takeru heads to the mines on a carriage with B, who is excited to eat more crab meat. He tells the baby dragon they're all out of dangerous seafood, while the other passengers feel worried about the strange events happening at the mines. Once he gets off the carriage, Takeru sees a horse stable, as he thinks about how nice it would be to get his own horse. He hears a familiar voice. It turns out, the elf he met in the forest is arguing with the horse dealer that the giant ball of feathers he's selling is actually a crow. The man sighs, saying that at his stables, they consider any rideable animal a horse, so the birds are fair game for them. She calms down after his explanation, and the shopkeeper tells her that she can find a pure horse near the dwarf kingdom. Takeru notices the elf heading in the same direction as him, and he gets ready to gather some materials with B. In the forest, he gathers up a bunch of moon night grass, thinking the trip was totally worth it. Suddenly, he hears a powerful rumbling sound and finds the elf girl famished near a tree once again. As the homeless elf begs for water, Takeru gives her some food and wonders why she's always ending up like a beggar. As the girl stands up to thank him, Takeru catches a whiff of her natural musk. Feeling disgusted, he quickly uses a clean spell to sanitize her stinky body. The elf is surprised, but quickly starts grinning after realizing she's clean for once. Takeru says that he simply doesn't want her to ruin his fantasy of pure, delicate elves. The girl introduces herself as Vel Brolite. Her full name is pretty hard for Takeru to remember, so he just settles for Brolite. Brolite offers to repay Takeru for the favor, but he shrugs it off and starts walking away. However, she stops him, saying that she won't let him help her for free. As she insists, B also feels happy to have another friend, leading to Takeru finally accepting her. Afterward, as Takeru resumes his gathering, B and Brolite come rushing to him with precious monster poop. He tells them that it's just a normal rock, which leaves the two shocked, as they keep returning with a bunch of goofy trash. Takeru realizes that Brolite's brain is about the size of B's tiny eyes. As it gets late, Brolite thinks about setting up a bonfire. Takeru thinks they don't need one since he has magic stones, but she explains that leaving trails of fire lets other adventurers in the area know it's safe to camp there. Soon, she returns with a huge log on her shoulder, tosses it into the air, and slices it into chunks with her daggers. As she lands back on the ground, Takeru is impressed by her brute strength and decides to check the stats of her daggers. He's shocked to learn that there are ranked artifacts. He realizes that Brolite is actually from a noble elf bloodline. A while later, he cooks a delicious meal over the firewood she brought, and an excited Brolite tries it. She instantly falls in love with the meal, complimenting Takeru's cooking. As she takes more bites, the elf girl looks like she's in heaven, and Takeru thinks she's exaggerating. Then, Brolite tries talking with her mouth full, so he reminds her to chew first before speaking. She asks him if he's heading for the mines, and Takeru nods and asks her what she's going to do. Brolite explains that she's looking for a beautiful white Pegasus for her younger sister, Ludicara. After changing the serious topic, Brolite realizes that Takeru treated her to another meal for free. As payment, He wonders if she could become his bodyguard, and she asks to clarify her job duties. He nods, saying it would be nice to learn basic survival skills from her, but Brolite wonders if that's really all he wants. Takaru nods, thinking that he's already asking her a huge favor. Brolite sighs, saying that their second meeting must be because of fate, and she accepts his offer to be his bodyguard. Unfortunately, Takaru ends up regretting his decision just 30 minutes later when she starts snoring louder than a jackhammer with B. The next morning, Takaru follows Brolite to a river bridge leading to the dwarf kingdom. As they head into the dwarf city, the first thing Takaru decides to get is food. They find a nice restaurant to dine in, where the waitress proudly serves them some juicy meat rolls. After taking a bite, Takaru praises the roll's great flavor, and Brolite thinks the food is just as good as her friend told her. Takaru gets curious about her friend, so she reveals that her friend is a lizardman. Thinking about Clay, he tells her that he's also good friends with a lizardman. Brolite then starts bragging about her friend's status, revealing he was awarded the title of Holy Dragon Knight by the Stalfa's Empire. After hearing this title, Takaru realizes she's talking about the same person, and suddenly, Clay speaks from the table next to theirs. Takaru is shocked that the lizardman is all the way out here, but Clay reminds him that he left Belkame without a single word. Takaru sheepishly claims that he informed the guild, but Clay keeps calling him out for not letting him know. Then, he asks Takaru where he's headed, so he explains that he's going to mine some ores at the Ruhai mine. Clay is surprised that a low-ranked adventurer like him is doing such a dangerous mission, but Takaru thinks that it's all worth it if he can get some nice scissors from a master blacksmith. His low standards leave Clay speechless, and he decides to join Takaru on his mission. Surprised, Brolite asks Clay if he wants to become his bodyguard just like her, which makes him curious. After learning that Takaru took the elf girl as his bodyguard, Clay agrees to become her co-worker on their trip. As the strange misfits clap hands, Takaru thinks he's gonna regret bringing them along with him. The next day, all of them head over to the Dwarven Kingdom city. As the border guard spots Clay, he invites the group inside, who feel surprised that they're getting special treatment. Clay reveals that he knows a good friend in the kingdom, and the guard leads them deep into a basement. Once the stairs open up, everyone is surprised to see a gigantic underground city. Meanwhile, the guard tells Clay that the Dwarf King is looking for him, which shocks Takaru. Clay acts like he's not related to the dwarves at all, but the guard tells them that he became their hero after saving their race from the Thunder King, Zengam. It turns out that back in the past, the dwarves were very weak, and an evil demon used to rule them. When Clay was just passing through their kingdom, the demon got terrified of him and ran away, which led to him becoming the hero of the dwarves. Soon, the guard takes everyone into the king's palace, where Clay starts grilling the king for giving him so much attention. As Brolite notices how close Clay is to the king, Takaru introduces himself. The king tells him to just ask what he wants without any formality, so he shows him a letter of recommendation from Grauthas. As the king recognizes Grauthas, Takaru asks him for permission to explore the Ruhai mines. The king warns him that the mines have turned into a hotspot for demons, but Takaru says that he's prepared. This surprises the king, but Clay reassures him that he'll guard Takaru properly, and Brolite will also protect him with her strength. With Clay's guarantee, the king decides to approve his request and orders his party to uncover the truth behind the demon's appearance at the mines. While Clay agrees to the king's request, Takaru feels confused that they're being sent on a quest to uncover mysteries for him. Unfortunately, he gets forced to tag along on the fetch quest, and they head down to the entrance of the mines. The Dwarven Guild's receptionist, Zambo, welcomes everyone and explains that he'll guide them through the mine's tunnels. After he opens the gate to the mines, Brolite notices that it's pitch black, so Takaru casts a light spell to illuminate the area. Then, he duplicates the map he got from Zambo, surprising everyone with his versatile skills. Excited to get the quality ore, Takaru uses his search ability next, but only sees a bunch of crude iron ore nearby. Suddenly, B alerts Takaru to a nearby monster, and he uses a detection spell to locate it. As Takaru spots a pair of glowing eyes in the dark, everyone prepares for battle. When a swarm of demon spiders crawls out, Clay stabs the first one with his spear. Then, Takaru stops the other one in its tracks with a slow-motion spell, giving Brolite the chance to rip it apart. After defeating the spider, she starts bouncing around in joy. Before they head deeper into the mines, when they finally reach a lower level, Takaru detects some Ildra ores nearby, but stops walking as he comes across a dead end. After realizing that the ore is hidden behind the walls, Takaru asks Zambo for permission to dig. In front of everyone, Takaru blows up the entire wall with a bunch of fireballs, revealing a cluster of high-quality Ildrite ore. He gets disappointed that it isn't the Ildra he wanted, but Zambo screams at him, pointing out that Ildrite is even more valuable than Ildra. After scanning the ores, Takaru finds out that they're in a ranked material, and wonders if the mana-dense environment of the mines is perfect for nurturing them. Suddenly, B warns Takaru, so he gets serious, drawing everyone's attention. Hearing hearing some loud footsteps approach them. Zambo realizes that the demons have found them. As the demon gets closer, Takaru tells Brolite and Clay to step back and walks close to the demon. When the creature finally shows its crabby face, Takaru and B are excited to get another taste of the delicious seafood. Watching the two of them excitedly planning to eat the monster, Clay reminds Takaru and B to get serious. He tells them that this crab is a dangerous rank monster, so they can't treat it like a joke. However, Takaru still tells him to stand back, wanting to hunt his own food. As the monster charges at him, he tells B to cover him while he makes his move. Takaru uses a quick and hardened spell on his body to enhance his abilities before rushing towards the crab. Clay and Brawlite think the crab will devour him, but B uses a screeching sound wave that stuns the monster. Takaru takes this chance to jump up and smash the crab's head with his staff, but it shakes him off with its pincer. Then, Takaru quickly dodges an attack before he can become a shish kebab, and B uses ice magic to freeze one of the crab's legs. As the crab struggles to move, Takaru uses his scan spell to identify the weak points on its body. After identifying the weak spots, he summons a bunch of ice needles to pierce its hard shell. As he releases the ice needles, they launch into the crab's body and freeze the entire thing into an ice sculpture. While Takaru pays his respect to the dead crab, Clay wonders why he's fighting alone instead of with his team. Takaru apologizes to him and explains that he was just scared that they'd attack too hard and destroy their precious meat. Clay is surprised that he was planning to cook the monster from the start, but reminds Takaru that he's supposed to be his bodyguard. Takaru tells him that he was just trying to make things easier since he's more experienced in dealing with crabs, but Clay says that he shouldn't get so excited when they're in an unpredictable environment. Saying that he and Brawlite wouldn't go against Takaru's wishes, Clay asks him to rely on them for everyone's safety. Finally, Takaru admits his mistake and apologizes, so Clay pats his shoulder and tells him to collect the crab's meat. After collecting the monster meat, Takaru also picks up all of the magic ore in the area. However, he senses some more treasure in nearby areas and tells Zambo that the dwarves can mine it in the future. As the dwarf tears up and thanks Takaru for his great help, he wonders if he's finally causing the changes to the world that the space manager said he would. Then, Brawlite and Clay start heading back, so Takaru thinks he'll keep doing what he wants as long as the changes are good for the people around him. After heading back to the dwarf city, Takaru informs the king that he has defeated the monster. The king feels surprised, so Zambo confirms that they truly did defeat the fearsome demon. He asks Takaru to reveal the monster's remains, so he takes out the giant crab sculpture right in the middle of the court. As the heavy sculpture shakes the room, the king gets up and admires the monster. He congratulates Takaru for exterminating the beast for his kingdom and offers a reward, but Takaru just asks if he can take the crab's body home. His simple request surprises the king, but he allows Takaru to have it. As the group returns home, Brawlite feels happy that the king gave them 3 million raves as a reward for the quest anyway. However, he doesn't care about his new wealth, only thinking about the delicious sashimi he's going to make with the crab's meat. Clay pokes Takaru for drooling like an idiot, who thinks about making some new gathering scissors with the crab's hard shell. The next day, Brawlite receives a beautiful white horse prepared by the dwarf king. Clay also gets a repaired spear, and Brawlite gets on the horse to deliver it to her sister. Takaru asks if she's leaving, so she nods, saying that she won't ever be able to repay him for all his help. He tells her he doesn't want anything in return, while Clay reminds him that their carriage has also arrived. Soon, Brawlite flies on her new horse and leaves, and Takaru and Clay head back home on their carriage. Once he returns to the guild, Takaru notices Ariana posting new quests on the board. She greets him and asks why he's with Clay, assuming they've formed a party together. Clay explains that they're just together temporarily, but they haven't decided to part ways yet. This news excites the bunny girl, and she starts hopping with joy before leaving to report their union to the guild master. After she leaves, Takaru wonders why Clay is hanging around him. The lizardman says that even though he knows Takaru is a mysterious person with extraordinary powers, he just wants to stick around to see what he's capable of. Takaru feels awkward having to share his secrets with another person, but he trusts Clay to be a good party member. After some discussion, they decide to become a proper team and call themselves the Azure Ebony team. Later, Takaru takes some high-quality Ildrite to Grauthas, who suddenly starts shaking as he holds the ore. Takaru thinks that the dwarf is disappointed and wonders why he doesn't like the higher quality. Then, he thinks that higher quality materials might be too hard to handle for Grauthas, but suddenly, both Grauthas and Ribble start crying, overjoyed to have the chance to work with their dream ore. Ribble thanks Takaru for his generous help, and Grauthas says that he has never seen so much Ildrite in over 120 years of living. Seeing the dwarves so happy, Takaru feels relieved that they like his materials. Despite knowing that the Ildrite is high quality, it would have been useless if the ore was too difficult to process for them. However, Ribble tells him him that they don't have the money to buy such valuable material. In response, Takaru reminds her that she can just make the gathering scissors, which will be enough for him. Still, he tells them to focus on creating their sword for the competition first. A month later, Guild Master Wade tells Takaru that someone has written a letter to summon him. As Takaru takes the letter from him, Clay notices that it's from the noble Lusabak family, from whom the City Lord of Belkane comes. Clay explains that the City Lord is actually the lord of the entire Lusabak territory, which is a whole region that includes Belkane City. Seeing that the territory lord has a high status, Takaru thinks it'll be too much trouble dealing with him. He tells Wade that he'll be having a stomachache tomorrow, so he won't be able to meet the lord. However, the guild master tells him not to worry since Lord Belminant is a chill guy. Finally, Takaru decides to look at the letter and learns that Belminant invited Clay's team to his estate to give him a reward for his performance at the Stavlov Plains. While Clay is surprised that he's the reason they were invited, Takaru thinks that the city lord is just using the reward as an excuse to meet him. Clay agrees, thinking that the city lord just wants to see B, the baby dragon. Hearing this, Takaru instantly gets protective of B, but Wade reassures him that the city lord won't steal him. Clay also says that he'd just leave Belkane if the city lord turned out to be such an evil person. Finally, Takaru decides to trust the city lord enough to go see him with Clay. A little while later, they leave for the city lord's mansion on a carriage. As the carriage leaves, all the townsfolk gawk at the luxurious ride. Takaru wonders why everyone is so impressed, so Clay explains that not many people get to see a high-ranking noble like the lord. He also reveals that if a person can get the city lord's backing, they'll instantly rise in strength and status even if they're weak themselves. As Takaru nods in understanding, they soon arrive at the mansion. When Takaru looks out the carriage window, he feels shocked to see a luxurious castle bigger than anything he imagined. After they exit the carriage, a butler named Raymond welcomes them. Takaru and Clay follow him as he guides them through the house. At the entrance, lines of maids welcome the guests. As they walk further into the house, a little girl suddenly runs up to Takaru. She looks at B and thinks he looks kind of funny, then suddenly demands that Takaru hand the dragon over to her. As Takaru refuses, she looks stunned. The girl claims that dragons are noble creatures, so she naturally deserves to own one as a noble herself. Clay realizes that the little girl is named Tiras. Takaru immediately scans her and discovers she's the daughter of the city lord. Wondering how to deal with the stubborn kid, Takaru gets down on his knees, which surprises her. Then, he asks her why she thought she was going to get the dragon. She explains that someone named Bernard told her about B, and ever since then, she's wanted to have him. Takaru asks her about Bernard, so she explains that he told her to be stubborn and forceful if she wanted to take his dragon. Takaru wonders who Bernard even is, and tells Tiras that B is part of his family, so he can't give him away. She calls out B's name, and B politely responds to her greeting. This surprises the young girl, so Takaru explains that B can perfectly understand human language. Tiras feels embarrassed that she said so many rude things about Takaru and B, and says that she didn't expect them to be family. As she apologizes for all her hurtful words, B tells Tiras that he forgives her, and Takaru asks why she wanted a dragon so badly. Tiras tears up, saying that she needs a dragon for her mother. Before she can explain, Lord Belminant appears in the hall. When Takaru looks at the handsome city lord, he feels shocked that such a young guy is actually the father of a teenager. Belminant walks up to Takaru, introduces himself, and then offers a handshake. After shaking hands, Belminant takes Takaru and Clay to a private room for a chat. He apologizes for his daughter's rude behavior, but Takaru tells him he didn't mind it. Clay asks him why he invited them, so he explains that he needed their help. Clay is shocked that he needs help and wonders if it's about his wife. Belminant nods, and Clay tells Takaru that his wife, Mulateria, has been bedridden due to illness for the past 6 months. Belminant explains that he heard the rumors about Takaru healing a stranger's incurable illness in the slums, so he invited him for his assistance. Takaru sighs, knowing it's his fault the rumors spread, and Belminant begs him to for his help. Thinking about his healing powers, Takaru remembers that he literally transformed Clay's entire body, so he feels afraid that he'd hurt the madam with the wrong dosage. Belminant then tells Takaru that Tiras wanted a baby dragon because of her mother. This confuses Takaru, so Belminant explains that Tiras will soon be leaving to attend school in the royal capital, and she wanted a cute pet to keep her mother company while she's gone. Clay gets emotional over the little girl's kindness, then starts glaring at Takaru, making him realize he has no choice but to help them. Takaru agrees to help, but still feels afraid that he'd get into trouble if he accidentally hurt a nobleman's wife. Finally, he asks Belminant to see his wife, and he happily takes them to her room. After announcing their arrival, he opens the door and leads them inside. The room is dark, and Takaru immediately notices how poor the ventilation is. When Mulateria asks her husband why he's come, Takaru is shocked to see how sickly she looks. Before starting his diagnosis, he asks asks Belmonent if he can light up the room. However, Belmonent explains that his wife can't deal with the sunlight, so they keep the room dark for her. Takaru nods and gets close to the madam and uses his scan to check her status. Belmonent asks if her illnesses are curable, and Takaru tells him he can manage the lady's joint pains and other symptoms. However, he feels confused by her illness of iver poisoning, since he has never heard of such a disease before. Seeing Takaru lost in thought, Clay wonders if something is wrong. Takaru tells Belmonent that he needs his full trust before beginning the treatment. Muleteria then says she just wants to regain enough strength to hold her daughter again, even if she can't make a full recovery. Hearing his wife's heartbreaking words, Belmonent begs Takaru to help her, and Takaru nods, preparing to begin the procedure. Clay wonders if Takaru will use the spell he used to heal his wounds, but he explains that if he used that spell, it would drain too much of Muleteria's mana, so he can't use it in her condition. Then, he thinks about fixing the room's dark atmosphere, and wonders how to do it without irritating the madam's eyes. He decides to cast a gentle heal spell on her eyes and asks her to open them. Muleteria nods and slowly opens her eyes, surprised that her vision has cleared up so much. Takaru brings up his staff to clean the room's negative aura. As he casts the clean spell, a strong wind blows through the entire room, surprising everyone. Once the wind settles and the room is purified, Muleteria realizes that her eyes can now easily handle the bright sunlight. Concerned for his wife, Belmonent asks her if she's okay. She nods, shedding tears of joy as she shares her happiness with her husband. Clay congratulates Takaru for a job well done, but he doesn't seem too happy about it. While remaining silent, Takaru looks back at Belmonent's servants standing in the room. Then, he quietly tells Clay that he'll explain the situation in private. Later, in a separate room, Takaru tells Belmonent that his wife was poisoned using iver. Takaru thinks that her poisoning was caused gradually by small amounts of the poison being used in her food. Belmonent wonders why anyone would do such a thing to her, but then realizes it was a malicious plan made to deliberately kill her. Then, Takaru explains that he's not too familiar with iver, so he can't cure the substance's poison. When he asks Belmonent to buy the iver antidote himself, he reveals that there is actually no antidote for this substance. Belmonent explains that the iver toxin is a forbidden poison that was lost to time, so nobody even knows what ingredients were used in it, much less what the antidote is. Takaru thinks that they can cure the poison by creating some iver themselves, but Clay reminds him it's not going to be easy recreating a legendary poison. Suddenly, Belmonent remembers a way they can search for some clues. He takes out some old books written by his ancestors, hoping one of them contains the recipe for the poison. However, since the books are written in an ancient language, Belmonent can't actually read them. Takaru nods and takes the books, and thanks to his special language skill, he's able to read the titles. However, he still can't read all the books in a short while because he's not a robot, so instead, he decides to skim through all of them to find anything related to poison. He uses his search skill and finds iver mentioned in one of the books. After opening the book, Takaru tells Belmonent that it contains a description of the iver flower. However, he thinks the flower's description is hard to decipher because it seems to be written by a child. Everyone starts feeling awkward, but Takaru reads it out anyway. It turns out that one day, a girl was exploring the land to find herbs when she found a big lake. As she rested on a horse-shaped rock near the lake, the girl found gold-colored iver flowers growing there. As Takaru keeps yapping about the girl's diary, Clay shuts his mouth and tells Belmonent that he actually recognizes this place. Belmonent feels shocked, so Clay shows him a point on the map where he saw a similar horse rock near a village. He reveals that the village is called Asheth, and Belmonent notes that it's located quite far away from his territory. He explains it'll take them around 5 days just to reach the village, so Takaru suggests leaving as soon as possible to get the madam's treatment. As they all leave the mansion, one of Belmonent's servants watches them through the window. Before leaving the mansion, Takaru places some magic stones outside. Clay wonders why he's doing this, so he explains it's a security measure against anyone who might try harming Muleteria in their absence. As Belmonent realizes how careless he was being, Tiris comes running up to them, feeling guilty for bullying the person who is treating her mother. She quickly apologizes for being so rude to Takaru when they first met. He feels surprised by the girl's mature behavior and admits that her actions hurt him. However, he praises her ability to recognize her mistake, which leaves her confused. Takaru explains that if a person can admit their mistake, it means they value the thoughts and feelings of others. In his eyes, Tiris will have great relationships if she continues being so mature in her interactions. As the girl tears up from his heartwarming encouragement, Takaru forgives her and reminds her to be careful about her behavior. She nods, but then he warns her that after he leaves the house, Belmonent's butlers might try to trick her, so he warns her to always discuss these matters with her father. Then Takaru leaves the area with Clay. As they gallop on their horses, he uses a quick and light spell to increase their movement speed speed. Clay feels excited by the powerful feeling, but his horse suddenly turns into a roller coaster. Takaru finally realizes he put a bit too much energy into his spell, but it's too late since his own horse also dashes away at the speed of light. After a lot of galloping, they finally reach the village. Takaru wonders how this desolate area could sustain a village's population, so Clay explains that it was a thriving paradise in the past. As they move through the barren land, Takaru wonders if the lake has also dried up. Clay doesn't think so, since such a large body of water can't just evaporate so easily. Takaru nods, and after a bit more traveling, they finally arrive at the lake. After getting close, Takaru uses his scan spell and finds something interesting. He tells Clay that the drought might have been caused on purpose by someone. Suddenly, some villagers appear and are shocked when they see them. Noticing their fear, Takaru politely introduces himself and Clay, explaining that they're only on a quest to obtain a rare material. When the villagers hear they're adventurers, they become suspicious, so Clay shows them his adventurer's bracelet. Realizing they're a powerful ranked party, the villagers surrender and one of them collapses from exhaustion. Takaru quickly catches the boy and notices they're starving, so he asks them to explain what is happening in this land. After taking them to the village chief explains that their lake suddenly changed color 10 months ago. After that, the lake's fish also died, and the well water became unusable for them. However, a mysterious merchant named Ngash saved their village on the condition that they give him their rare golden flowers in exchange for 60 barrels of water. Although he gave them a good amount of water for every flower, it wasn't enough to cultivate their fields, so the villagers slowly ran out of food. After the chief finishes explaining their situation, Clay points out that Ngash most likely obtained the ivory flowers from them. Takaru nods, but thinks that Ngash might be an evil person. The villagers refuse to believe it since the merchant showed them kindness, but Takaru reminds them that he only started helping after their water was suddenly poisoned. Then, Takaru reveals that he discovered the lake was intentionally poisoned. He also tells the villagers that Ngash had been buying powerful poison directly from them, which leaves everyone completely shocked. Since the villagers never knew their beautiful flowers were poisonous, they feel betrayed that Ngash took advantage of them. Thinking about how these innocent villagers have been starving, Takaru swears to punish the evil merchant responsible. Then, he tells B to use his spirit magic. B flies up to the sky and releases a piercing scream, which summons clouds and causes a sudden downpour. As the villagers watch pure water raining on them after so long, they start basking in its refreshing sensation. After a while, Takaru tells B to stop his rain spell. He uses his magic to clean the dirty villagers and repairs their entire village. As everyone looks around in surprise, Takaru gives them one final gift by pulling out a huge feast. Overjoyed, the villagers start eating the hearty meals, while Takaru watches with a smile. Once they're done eating, the chief thanks him for his incredible help. He feels guilty since he can't pay Takaru for his work, but he tells the chief to just allow him to collect the ivory flowers. Takaru explains that he needs the flowers to make an antidote. The chief agrees without hesitation, but still feels it isn't enough to repay their help. Suddenly, the village children run over to play with Takaru, but the chief scolds them for bothering their savior. Clay tells him he doesn't need to repay their kindness anymore, since the ivory flowers are already their village's special item. The kids take Takaru to their secret base. After entering the secret house, Takaru wonders if it's a barn. Gonza nods and explains that the villagers keep their harvested fruit in this storage. Takaru wonders why they didn't just eat the fruit if they were starving, but Gonza explains that the fruit is extremely bitter. Since the fruit comes from a honey-producing plant, the villagers only harvest its nectar and throw the fruit away. After hearing this, Takaru decides to taste the strange Litas fruit. While the children watch in shock, he realizes that the fruit tastes exactly like soy sauce. Meanwhile, back in Belmonent's house, Tiris runs towards her mother's room after hearing an alarm sound. Knowing that the alarm is warning her about the person trying to harm her mother, she wonders who this person is. As she gets close to the room, she finds Bernard standing there. Bernard notices her and tries to get close, but Tiris backs away in fear. She accuses him of trying to poison his mother, but he calmly denies it. Tiris tells him that Takaru's alarm can only ring if a person with evil intentions approaches her mother. This makes Bernard narrow his eyes, and he tells Tiris she shouldn't put her trust in a strange adventurer. She remains stubborn, saying she totally trusts a kind person like Takaru. Bernard still tries to convince her of his own loyalty, so Tiris feels pressured by him. Suddenly, Belmonent comes running toward his daughter, and she quickly goes to his side. She tells her father they need to discuss something urgently, so he takes her and Bernard to a private room. There, Belmonent admits that he can't guarantee Takaru's trustworthiness. Tiris is surprised that her father would say such a thing, while Bernard thinks that the master is on his side. However, Belmonent points out that no matter what, Takaru did treat his wife's symptoms, so he needs to give him a chance. Since Takaru's alarm bell detected evil intentions from Bernard, Belmonent brings a special drink to test his loyalty. He explains that the drink contains the same treatment Bernard had been giving his wife all these years, and tells him to drink it. As Bernard avoids the drink, Belmonent's voice grows cold, and he questions why he isn't drinking his own medicine. As Bernard trembles in fear, Belmonent suddenly throws the drink in his face. Bernard starts screaming about being poisoned, but Belmonent tells him that the glass just contained normal water. Since Bernard admitted that he was the one who put poison in the drink, Belmonent calls his guards to arrest him. After Bernard is taken away, the head butler gives a strange paper to Belmonent. He explains that the paper was found in Bernard's belongings, and Belmonent gets shocked by the ancient language written on it. He realizes that it's actually a complex cipher that a random criminal cannot use. With this information, Belmonent thinks that a large criminal organization might be targeting him. Back in the village, a villager notices a strange man banging on the village chief's door. He asks who he is, but is shocked when he realizes it's Ingash himself. Ingash tells him he wanted the Ivor flowers as soon as possible, which is why he was knocking on the chief's door. The villager replies that the chief is currently out with some adventurers. He then tells Ingash that their village isn't giving out their poisonous flowers since anyone could misuse them. Realizing that his secret has been exposed, Ingash suddenly calls his subordinates and orders them to destroy the village. Meanwhile, the elder leads Takaru and Clay through a dark cave. After reaching the end, they discover a beautiful lake with a horse statue and golden flowers growing all around it. Takaru stares in awe, finally seeing the legendary Ivor flower with his own eyes. Takaru sits down and scans the flower. The scan reveals that the Ivor garden is guarded by a legendary beast, which surprises him. The village chief explains that Hofvalpnir is their village's guardian beast, who saved them from the demon that ruled their lake a long time ago. As he mentions a myth that the Ivor flowers come from the tears of Hofvalpnir, Takaru wonders if it's okay to take such precious flowers. The elder nods, saying he doesn't mind giving them to him since Takaru is their village savior. After thanking the chief for his approval, he cuts a flower with his scissors. Takaru is excited to make the antidote and test the soy fruit he found, but before he can start, a villager suddenly runs toward them in a panic. After the villager alerts them about the attack, Takaru and Clay rush back to the village with the elder. When they arrive, they find all the buildings burning and ruined beyond repair. Takaru quickly tells B to put out the flames before telling Clay to evacuate all the villagers. After their painstaking efforts, they manage to evacuate everyone and douse all the fires. Once the fires are out, a villager happily informs Takaru that nobody got seriously hurt. However, Takaru feels horrible for all their loss, and the villager tells him this happened after Ingash visited them. He reveals that after he refused to gift the poisonous Ivor flowers to Ingash, the merchant went rogue and set the entire village on fire. Hearing this, Takaru clenches his fist in rage, while the elder learns that Ganza has gone missing. Remembering the boy who showed him his secret hideout, Takaru is shocked that he'd disappear like this. While the others discuss what to do, an old lady tells Takaru that the Ingash's subordinates kidnapped Ganza. She points toward the lake where the kidnappers fled, and Takaru uses his enhanced search skill to quickly locate all the villains. After he locates all the kidnappers inside an abandoned fortress, Clay and Takaru get ready to head out. Suddenly, the chief stops them, warning that it's too dangerous. Takaru reassures him that Clay is a powerful A-rank adventurer, so they'll definitely bring Ganza back. After some time, the two of them reach the abandoned fortress. While Takaru and Clay wait in the bushes, B flies to one of the windows. Seeing that the bandits are having a party inside, B returns and gives Takaru the intel. Hearing that the thieves are shamelessly celebrating after burning down a helpless village, Clay flies into a rage. Transformed into his dragon form, he gets ready to destroy the bandits. Luckily, Takaru calms him down by pointing out that the bandits could hurt Ganza if they recklessly charge inside. Clay realizes he's right, but keeps roaring in rage since he just wants to unleash his wrath. Then, B suggests using a concealment technique, so Takaru starts considering his options. After some brainstorming, he gets a good idea. In Fortress's entrance, some bandits are sleeping on guard duty. Suddenly, a twig randomly breaks on the ground, but they don't notice any intruders. Deeper inside the fortress, a drunk guard hobbles around before Clay knocks him out. As he collects some items from the bandits' storage, Takaru asks Clay if the concealment spell is working well. Clay nods and adds that the rest of the bandits are gathered upstairs. Clay wonders why Takaru took some items, so he explains he's looking for any evidence of the bandits hiding poison. Then, they leave to search the fortress for Ganza. After a while, they get frustrated since Ganza is nowhere to be seen, and Clay thinks it's time to force the bandits to spit out the boy's location. As they make their way towards the party area, the bandits laugh and mock the village for refusing their master. One of them says they'll eventually get the Ivor flowers by using Ganza as a hostage, and the others laugh in glee. Meanwhile, Ingash remains silent with a serious expression. While his subordinates think it's time, they raise the price of Ivor poison. A bandit asks his partner how he's going to raise the price, so the man brings up Lord Belmonent's story. The bandit points out that even the mighty nobleman cannot treat his wife's ivory poisoning, so they can spread this news around the world. Since ivory is such a rare material, they'd be able to sell it for huge profits to any interested assassin. While the other bandits are amazed by his incredible idea, Ingash hits with a bottle. He reminds his subordinate that the plan is supposed to stay secret, and Takaru finally understands why the merchant was so interested in ivory. Clay starts feeling restless after hearing the bandits' evil plans, so Takaru tells him to go inside and obliterate them without killing. Clay nods and breaks through the main door. While the bandits stare in terror, Clay walks in and warns them to get ready. Seeing his subordinates get absolutely manhandled by this dragon, Ingash quickly decides to escape with his pathetic life. He orders one of his goons to bring him a secret weapon, but he hesitates since the weapon isn't ready. However, Ingash tells him they've got no other options, so the bandit rushes to retrieve it. Suddenly, the invisible Takaru pretends to be a bandit and asks Ingash if they should move their hostage. Ingash tells him there's no need, since Gonza is safe in an outer building. But when he turns around, no one is standing there. Outside the fortress, Takaru wonders if he can find the outer storage Ingash was talking about. Soon, he sees a single room guarded by a guard, and B tells Takaru he'll handle it. While the guard grumbles about missing the party, B surprises him with a headbutt in the gut. After the poor guard goes through a brick wall, Takaru asks B if he's hurt. B tells him he's completely fine, so Takaru focuses on the storage building. As he calls out to Gonza, the boy answers from inside a locked room. Relieved to see him fine, Takaru breaks the lock by hardening his hand. Once the door opens, Gonza starts crying in relief and runs into Takaru's arms. After calming the boy, Takaru takes him outside, where the rest of the bandits are panicking to escape from a monster. When he sees the monster tentacles, Takaru asks a bandit what creature is inside, and the man tells him it's the lake demon. Takaru thinks Clay is strong enough to handle the demon, but he could be at a disadvantage facing an unknown opponent. As he thinks about helping Clay, he asks Gonza if he could hide somewhere. However, Takaru realizes that the boy is in no condition to be alone, so he tells him to hold on tight. Once Gonza calms down, Takaru runs inside the fortress. There, he finds Clay fighting the creature. When the smoke clears, Takaru realizes the demon is actually a giant sea anemone. He scans it to check its stats and discovers it's only a B-rank demon summoned by Ingash. Nearby, Ingash begs Takaru to save his life, but he reminds him that the entire mess is his own fault. Still, when the demon lashes out with a tentacle, he shields Ingash before it can devour him. After the tentacle sends the fat merchant flying, Takaru rushes off to help Clay. Clay praises him for saving Gonza and explains that the demon's tentacles keep respawning endlessly. To prevent it from regenerating, Takaru freezes the demon's entire body with an ice breath skill. Clay thinks the monster is defeated, but Takaru tells him to kill it before it breaks out of the ice. Takaru tells him to aim for the monster's brain between its two red eyes, so Clay doesn't waste any time and strikes the weak point with a powerful punch. However, this only enrages the demon, and it releases an army of tentacles to attack Takaru. The attack blows him out of the fortress along Gonza, but Takaru barely manages to catch the kid. He throws the kid to B and falls into the poisonous lake below. As he sinks through the poison, Takaru wonders if he's going to die after getting so many overpowered abilities. While he drowns, he realizes that his body moved on its own just to save someone else's life. Watching the gatherers sink through the poison, a mysterious boy notes how selfless he is. While he believes Takaru's kindness is changing the world for the better, he also feels there are far too many strange abnormalities in it. To help Takaru combat these problems, the man decides to help him survive. Meanwhile, Takaru feels sad that he's going to die without eating all the delicacies in the world. Suddenly, he hears a woman's voice from the void, but he keeps ignoring it while lamenting his own fate. The woman tells him that her power has recovered, but Takaru keeps stubbornly ignoring her. Finally, she gets frustrated and yanks him out of the water. So Takaru finally notices the flying horse holding him. He wonders who she is, so she introduces herself as Hofalpnir. Before he can ask anything, she shows Takaru the lake, which has turned a pure blue color. He wonders how the lake changed so drastically, and Hofalpnir tells him that he purified her lake. She explains that a long time ago, one of the magical elements in the lake's ecosystem went out of balance, which weakened her. In order to protect her lake, she created the Iver flowers, which had the power to absorb the lake's poison. However, this used up all of her own powers, so she turned into the famous horse statue. Unfortunately, Ingash came and ruined all her efforts. But Takaru purified the lake and restored her power by absorbing the poisonous magical element. Takaru humbly accepts the Hofalpnir's thanks before she returns him to Clay and Gonza. He tells them that this white horse saved his life, but Clay and Gonza are unable to see her. As Takaru realizes he's the only one who can see the legendary beast, she disappears in a burst of light. Afterward, he returns Gonza to the village and leaves with Clay. Outside, he creates creates a circle of magic stones, explaining that it'll let him use a special magic spell. Clay feels hesitant, but decides to trust Takeru's abilities. After Clay gets inside the circle, Takeru uses a gate spell, which teleports them back to Belmanent's mansion. After returning, they got the help of a doctor from the Adventurers Guild to create an Ivor antidote. Once the antidote is done, Takeru gives it to Muleteria. When she drinks the liquid, her condition improves instantly. Belmanent asks Takeru to check on her, so he scans her body with his ability. Since the scan no longer shows Ivor poisoning, Takeru reassures Belmanent that his wife has been cured. This good news brings Tiras to tears, and the entire family starts crying as they celebrate. After healing the lady, Takeru returns to the village, where everyone is busy rebuilding their homes. The chief feels sad that their village got dragged into so much destruction, so Takeru reassures him that Ingash is under the custody of the territory lord with all the evidence against him, since his village is finally safe. The elder wonders how to thank Takeru for his immense help. Takeru tells him he doesn't want a big reward, but he decides to show him something. After a little while, he cooks up a potato and pours some soy fruit sauce over it. As the chief takes a bite of the seasoned potato, he falls in love with the taste. Takeru tells him that it's made with soy sauce. Then he asks if he can buy Lidas fruits in bulk from their village. The chief agrees to his demand, so Takeru asks if he can expand the Lidas fruit field after making some profits. The chief wonders what he'll do with so much useless fruit, so Takeru tells him he can sell it in Belkame as a village specialty. The offer of money finally gets the chief's gears going, and Takeru soon invites the rest of the villagers to taste how good their useless fruit can be. Afterward, he says goodbye to the village and returns to Clay. Clay wonders how he's feeling after all the recent events, and Takeru admits he's tired. In fact, Takeru looks at the sun and thinks he's so tired that he's starting to hallucinate. But when Clay looks toward the spot where Takeru sees the hallucination, he realizes he can see it too. Soon, Hofvalpnir materializes in front of them and declares she's a real creature. Then, she lands in front of them, so Takeru asks why she left the village. Hofvalpnir tells him she got tired of being stuck in the same village, and right then, the horse transforms into a woman. She tells Takeru she wants to travel the world with him, but Clay thinks it's not a good idea. However, Hofvalpnir is confident that she'll have lots of fun traveling with Takeru, and reminds him that he wanted a horse anyway. Takeru nods, but thinks it's too much to use a legendary beast like a common mount. Hofvalpnir doesn't seem to mind and happily tells Takeru he can go wherever he wants with her. As Hofvalpnir starts pestering him, Takeru realizes she's going to be a legendary pain in the rear end. That was episode 8. Subscribe to not miss the next part and watch the next video on screen.